Welcome, Moon and Star. Come, let's eat some dino nuggies first, for I have yet another message for you. Okay, like I said, I've been playing some new video games. I mentioned Hogwarts Legacy and Saints Row. I already complained about Hogwarts Legacy, so now I want to talk to you about the new Saints Row. So, I don't know what's the deal about the game, but it's trying to push a woke narrative. Like, it's not super obvious, but you just see it, it's there. The older Saints Row games, they just didn't give a shit about your feelings and being offensive, etc., but the new one is really soft. Back then, there were games like Postal 1 and 2. We are not going to talk about Postal 3, which started worldwide debates about what can be shown in video games and Grand Theft Auto, which already pushed the boundaries for politicians, the media, especially in the US. And video game developers made fun of them. Like in GTA 4, the Statue of Happiness, which is an homage or parody of the real-life Statue of Liberty, is literally Hillary Clinton. One of those politicians who wanted to ban violent videos games. There's also Lieberman, but I digress. So back then, things seemed to change for whatever reason. Rockstar Games pursued a more serious narrative with their new title, Grand Theft Auto 4, which focused on storytelling and choices. Really good game, they nailed it. Then there are the competitors like The Getaway for the PS2, which also focused on storytelling, but the gameplay element is still causing havoc. What else? Oh yeah, Driver 3, which is bugged beyond belief and broken. I'll talk about that game another time. So if you wanted to stay on that causing havoc with no regard for any digital human life path, there's Saints Row. In Saints Row 1, you're a silent protagonist who only talks in the final missions of each gang. You've just been recruited to the street gang Saints Row, hence the name, and do stuff for respect and money. Some of those things are pimping, causing havoc, spraying graffiti, but there's also over-the-top bullshittery, like spraying septic waste in the town to lower real estate prices. And if you're playing for a while, you're just used to the typical gangbanging stuff, like shooting with pistols and AKs. At some point, you're introduced to heavy weaponry, like RPGs, because Johnny Gat, who is a literal sociopath, tells you to. You blow up buildings and go around shooting. So it's real fun, because you know it's not real and it doesn't reflect anything in real life. I mean, by Azura, we're adults and it's escapism, basically. I'm trying not to spoil anything about the game series, but Nerevar, you probably played those games. Anyways, in Saints Row 2, you're the silent protagonist who had been blown up in the previous game, and you wake up in the hospital after a couple months or years, it's not really clear. So you escape the hospital, which is on a prison island, and rebuild the Saints Row street gang. Then you do the regular shenanigans, like gang warfare, spraying septic waste, shooting RPGs, driving tanks, etc., and you become like the uber motherfucker of the city. Like I said, I don't want to spoil anything for you, Moon and Star, if you haven't played, but I doubt that. So Saints Row 3, you and your lieutenants are the uber motherfuckers in the US or something, and you make money with advertisements for your fashion brand, energy drinks, so yeah, the former street gang is now a brand. You're millionaires or even billionaires. And rob banks for shits and giggles. Then some even richer French or Belgian crime lord is like, "Hey, you robbed my bank, you fucks. I'm going to take you on my plane now." And Johnny Gat dies, or not. That depends whether you're going to play Saints Row 4 or the DLCs for Saints Row 3. Later you do the regular Saints stuff like driving tanks, murdering, shooting, expanding your brand, etc., etc., and you defeat the even richer asshole and his associates. Saints Row 4. By Azura, I'll make this brief. You're the President of the United States, then alien invasion, you're in the Matrix, and then there's a lot of, hey look, Mass Effect reference, and oh wow, we're so funny now, we're picking on Mass Effect. Yeah, they're just shitting on Mass Effect. What? Yeah, I know you can literally fuck anyone in your crew in Mass Effect. Mass Effect has a great storytelling, interesting lore. So you can't compare it with Saints Row. They're in completely different leagues, like Saints Row is a funny murder shooter game, and Mass Effect is a story-driven RPG set in space in the future. Yes, Nerevar, Mass Effect 3 is not the best installment of the series. But we're ignoring Mass Effect Andromeda, which is a huge pile of stinking, steaming, fuming shit. No, Nerevar, just listen. I'm talking about Saints Row now, okay? I'll talk about Mass Effect another time. So, the new Saints Row, I don't even know where to start. Just take a look upon the heart. I mean the screen on the... Nerevar, just look. Yes, Nerevar, I mounted a flat screen on the heart of Lorcan. Yeah, yes, it's disrespectful, but who is going to stop me? Anyways, let's look at the trailer of Saints Row 2022.
You have more agency and power than the world wants you to know.
How do we make a statement? We want to be more than a street gang.
We just gotta be a little more creative.
So I'm going to stop right here because that's all you need to know about the game, basically. Let's focus on the story and the gameplay. So, the developers really want you to play the female protagonist. Like, they really want you to play as her. She's featured on the game cover, she's in the trailer, and is the standard player model. When you create your character, I'm not even joking. They really shove it in your face. When you compare it to, let's say, Saints Row 3, the boss's identity is not clear. It can be anyone. Because when you play the tutorial level, the boss is in a suit with a mask and shit. So, you're basically a Mary Sue. Doesn't matter if you play as the developer's choice or make your own character. You're nigh invincible because in the first 5 minutes you get blown up, but survive for some reason. And it's really funny because it happens again. Yes, we get it. You're super special. So you're employed by a private military contractor and try to capture some evil guy who is really evil and also very special like you. And then he tries to escape, but you capture him because fuck the orders of your superior officer and shit. Then your superior officer scolds you for being a disrespectful little shit, and you go home. You live with your friends and share an apartment. One guy is like a super geek who doesn't listen to music and is also super smart and shit. The other friend is an obnoxious dumbass named Kevin. By the gods, I really hate Kevin. And then there's this Latin American woman who is super hot but also super ugly and nerdy and fixes cars for some reason. Oh, before I forget, Kevin and Latina Lady are both in the gangs from the town. Kevin is in the Antifa on steroids gang, and Latina woman, her name is Nina. I actually had to look up the name because these characters are so bland, is in the other gang called Los Panteros. The Los Panteros are generic South American cholos and muscle car dudes who I don't know are really into cars and muscles. So, for whatever reasons, they don't kill each other even when they're in rival gangs. But all you guys are super best friends. Well, not yet. That's an actual mission in the game. Bonding, I'm not kidding. So from what I understand, you try to pay off your student loan debt because that's a thing, because America, very evil. In my opinion, if you don't study, let's say gender studies, you probably pay off your debt in a year or two. But then again, I'm not from America, so I don't know, and this video isn't supposed to be political. Anyways, moving on. So you and your friends are broke, and you rob a small bank with no masks while still being scared shitless about any cops or gang members showing up. I'm not joking. Then you run away because the police arrive and you're introduced to, let's say, evasive maneuvers and Mario Kart drifting. Then you're caught by the police and sexy, ugly Latina motorhead comes to the rescue by breaking the traffic laws and the laws of physics. Because she's also very special like you. Oh yeah, there's also a cat in your apartment, but you see that cat in like maybe 2 or 3 cutscenes. And there's a LGBTQABC def gijeklam annap flag in your apartment. Look, I don't hate trans people or something, but you guys are really into flags, like a political party in the 1930s, so that's a little worrying. Anyways, the cat is absolutely meaningless, but is there for some reason. So it really bothers me that I cannot pet the cat. Like, what the fuck, Nerevar? I want to pet the kitten. You can do it in almost every game. GTA 5? There's your pet dog, and you can play with him and shit. Red Dead Redemption 2, you can pet any dog in every town. You can even do that in Hogwarts Legacy. Why the fuck can I not pet the cat in Saints Row? I can pet any dog outside. I think so, at least. Tell me if I'm wrong, Nerevar. I digress, so you do stuff at work and fuck it up. There's the Los Panteros, they have some Aztec statue or some shit. And the PMC you work for wants that thing for their employer. And then they get away or something. Look, the plot of this game is so fucking boring, I'm struggling to recall anything that happened. So, you do some missions, and then you're fired. For some reason. Then you're introduced to quick-time events. And it's basically, how do I put this? 9-gag humor, your objective is to toast bread, I'm not kidding. So you kind of see what I'm getting at. So the objective is displayed like in caps lock. It's like OMG toast already. Like really funny, haha. Yeah, it's maybe funny in the 2010s or so, but in current year it's called cringe. So you're fired and suddenly have depression, and you order knives on some infomercials. And I'm not making this shit up, the fucking knives play a role in the plot later. So your friend Kevin and the geek are at a party of Antifa, and the Los Panteros are like, yeah, we'll just go there and kill everyone. And Nina, the sexy, ugly Latina motorhead, is informed because she's in the Los Panteros and also has depression or something. And you and Nina are like, haha, sucks for Kevin and geek. But then you're like, oh noes, we needs to help him, lol. And you save your friends, and then you start your own gang. No, Nerevar, I'm not kidding. This is the actual plot of the game. Well, at least it's what I can recall. So you want to start a gang, but your friends are like, yeah, we don't want the HQ in our apartment, so we need to move. And you find some real estate's guy and tie him on your car and do sick back flips and drive really fast to scare him. You remember the mission for the triads in GTA San Andreas? Yeah, it's basically the same mission, except the real estate's guy gives you a deed for an old church. And then you start your gang in said church. And the logo is the same fucking logo like the Saints logo of every Saints Row gang before. But it's also in a different universe, but still in the same universe. Because the Stillwater, the city you play in Saints Row 1 and 2, is mentioned a couple of times on the radio. Anyways, you just create a knockoff of the Saints and do gang stuff. And then you're like really notorious and shit, and all the gangs hate you and the police. And then you're supposed to be super offended because the police start a special task force against you and call you Purple Shirt Mafia and not the Saints. Then later there's a mission where you capture the chief of the task force on lunch break. And she's in her car and you grab her with a helicopter. And the helicopter has a magnet underneath and you toss her around and shit to scare her. Yeah, you get the idea. And she's super impressed by that display of recklessness or something and leaves your gang alone, for whatever fucking reason. And then there's rich old white guy who is the employer of the PMC in the town, and you're just supposed to hate him. And you do stuff and it really irritates him. And then there's this lady in that company of his, and you're suddenly a part of the company and kick out evil white man or kill him. Then you're even more notorious and no one wants to mess with you. Oh yeah, I forgot. The evil bad guy from the beginning then joins your gang. And the 5 of you do bonding and shit and you're friends or whatever, and the evil guy is like, yeah, you're trouble for my friends. I'm going to kill you at a party. And then the big revelation. The beginning of the game is actually the ending. Like in the beginning you see that you're being murdered and the place is torn apart, etc. Then you jump into a helicopter and save your friend from the evil fiend. And that's the plot of the game, basically. I'm not fucking kidding. What? Oh yes, Nerevar, the knives. You give one of those knives you ordered to the evil guy who is your friend, but you just know. Like seriously, you just know. He betrays you and he stabs you with that knife you gave him. And it turns out you're not really dead, but survive for some reason, and you save your friends. So, I don't know what the developers were thinking when they wrote the plot, but it's just so angsty and edgy, and every person who is a little competent has to, like seriously, has to be a POC, or a woman, or both. So they really push a woke narrative. I mean, the smartest guy in the universe has to be a black manlet with Asperger's. The best mechanic has to be ugly, yet sexy Latina motorhead. Oh, and then there's Kevin. I refuse to talk about that fuck. He's super annoying and there's like this running gag in the game that he never wears a shirt. Never ever. Why? I don't know. He just won't. The joke is he never wears a shirt because he's got muscles. And he likes to show them off, but there is an entire gang who's on steroids and exhaust fumes going ape shit if you touch their cars. So why in the fuck do you refuse to wear a shirt? You're not special. By Azura, Kevin has got to be one of the worst characters in any video game. So, you see, Nerevar, the plot of this game is just so boring and bland and stupid, I seriously struggle to recall anything that happens. I can't even remember the names of the friends. And they're the deuteragonists of the plot because friendship and stuff. Keep in mind, I played that game a couple of weeks ago and I had to look up the fucking names. Also, they try so hard to do that over-the-top thing from the previous games, but they just suck at it. They really shove it in your face like, haha, look, we're so funny, protagonist makes toast, funny internet pop culture meme, ha ha. There are no nuances, it doesn't take itself serious, yet you're supposed to take it serious. Compare that to Saints Row 3 when Johnny Gat gets supposedly killed. Shondi is shocked, and it's like the game hits the brake pedal really hard for a second. The new Saints Row, it just tries to be super silly, wacky shit all the time, like Rick and Morty on crack. I mean, for fuck's sake, the game doesn't take itself seriously, yet it's super boring, because there's not a tragic moment at all. The geeky dude, Eli's his name or something, gets shot at that party, but he fucking survives due to plot armor. In Saints Row 2, the guy who helps you out of jail, he gets killed in one of the most gruesome ways imaginable, and you have to put him out of his misery. So that's what I'm trying to say. It tries to reflect what life is in some way, yet it also doesn't with the wacky bullshit. You can't take it serious. It picks up its momentum and just doesn't stop, yet you're supposed to take it serious at some point. But the protagonists are never really in danger. I don't really know what the fuck they were thinking, but whoever wrote the storyline for the game? By Azura, please stop. Forever.